Good morning, children. Today it is my lecture 3 class. Already 2 classes already have completed. So let me start the lecture 3. Students, in my earlier class, lecture 1 and lecture 2, I have started the Kepler's laws of planetary motions. Where in lecture 1 I have given introduction, you already know. In my lecture 2, I have started Kepler's laws of planetary motion. In that I have completed first Kepler's first law as well as Kepler's second law of planetary motions. So already in my earlier class I have given some important concepts. I will revise in my next class, I said, but today I will just complete first Kepler's third law, which is left out in these 3 laws of motion. After completing, I will recall from the beginning to the end of these 3 Kepler's laws of planetary motions. Is it clear? Okay. Today let me start Kepler's third law of motion. Kepler's third law. Where in my earlier class I said Kepler's third law is also called as law of period. Law of period. Also I said it is also called as harmonic law. Harmonic law. Before starting this, I will also write here the Kepler's first law here. It is called law of orbit. And second law, law of areas, right? And please observe in these 2 laws where earlier this was explained early in the year 1609, both the first law as well as the second law. But today this what I am explaining, the third law, this was explained in the year 1680. So both first law as well as the second law, both have explained early in 1609 and this was explained early, that is 1680. Okay. What does this law of periods explains? Means it explains about the time period of the orbit, that is time period of the planet which is revolving around the sun. It explains about the relationship between time period as well as the radius of the orbit. Okay. For your convenience, I will tell you, it gives relationship between time period and radius of the orbit. Radius of the orbit. Is it clear? So let me tell you for your convenience by drawing the figure where I just draw the elliptical orbit in which sun is at one of the foci. Let me say our planet is here, where the planet is here, right? Now, if I take the distance from the planet to the sun, let me write this is the 1r, which is nothing but the radius of the orbit. Earlier only you know about during Kepler's first law, law of orbit, where it explains the planet revolves around the sun in elliptical orbit. Do you know the concept in this? It revolves around the Sun is at one of the foci and planet is revolving around this. Okay, the distance from the planet to the Sun, that is nothing but represented by radius r. So I have given, this is the time period is represented by the symbol t and this radius is represented by r. What does it gives in this explanation means, according to Kepler, he explains the square of the, according to him, he states, let me tell you the one statement first. What does he explain in this? The square of the time period is always directly proportional to the cube of the semi-major axis. Nothing but cube of the semi-major axis of the planet. Okay, what do you mean by this? Here I have written r. According to this, if I take the radius, where in this nothing but if I write square of the time period is proportional to r cube, according to you. Right? Now just observe, according to his statement, I write first the statement and then I write this expression. So please observe, according to him, the square of the time period, the square of the time period of the planet is directly proportional to the cube of the semi-major axis. Cube of the semi-major axis. You already know in the earlier class, according to elliptical orbit, where you know if I just draw the elliptical orbit, there are two foci, where this is F1 and this is F2. Sun is at another position, where if the planet is moving around this, where I represent this by semi-major axis, let me tell you by name A, where this is the one planet around us, is revolving around us. Also, please recall, in my earlier class, I said this is not a circular orbit, it is an elliptical orbit. You already know circular orbit is like this, where the one center point is here. From here to here, we know the one, it is radius. But remember, this radius is not the same in the elliptical orbit. But you know, the one circle is a special case of the one elliptical orbit, where you can say this circle is a special case of this ellipse. At that time, I have said, where if you select, this is one of the semi-major axis, where, and this here, this is the radius. I said these 2 points will coincide together and this will merge into the circle and it forms the radius. You already know in the earlier class where I said these points. So according to this, if I represent this is R and this I represent for your reference as A. Okay, but according to this, you know the one time period and radius of the orbit. First I will explain and then I will extend to the semi-major axis. Is it clear? So for this, you just remember, according to our expression, where it is T square is proportional to A cube, where A is called, this is semi-major axis. Semi-major axis. What is this T? This is time period. Here I have taken radius means and using this some assumptions and prove first radius and then I will extend my explanation to semi-major axis. So you need not worry, what is it? Just you remember this statement. According to Kepler's third law, the square of the time period of the planet is directly proportional to the cube of the semi-major axis. this is the one correct statement you have to remember. You have to write semi-major axis, right? And this is the one time period. This is the relation you are writing here. But remember, it gives the relationship between radius and time period I said earlier. So let me tell you what is the radius of the circle, and explaining this, I'll extend my final explanation to semi-major axis. Okay, right. So this is the one statement you know. And remember I said planet. We have many planets in the universe. So these planets will be having different radius from the one sun. It will never be same. Different planets will be at different positions. So due to which you can say different planets will have different the radius. So please observe, different planets will be having different radius, because few are nearer to the one and few are away from the sun, and due to which different planets have different radius. So now let me take consideration to any two planets. Depending on that, I will explain this statement. Is it clear? So we have nearly 8 planets in the universe which is revolving around the sun, but I will take 2 planets. Using 2 planets I will explain this, and then you can also explain for remaining other planets also which is there, which are revolving around the sun. Is it clear? So please observe, here I have taken the one sun which is at one of the foci. Planet is at this position, right? So for a particular planet, particular radius is there. If I take another planet, that planet will be maybe slightly far away from this, maybe slightly nearer to this. So depending on that planet, the radius also varies. It will never be same. It varies. Different planets will have different radius. So for your convenience, I will just draw the figure, the one where, for example, if I have taken the one of the planet which is revolving around the sun. So let me say this is the one sun which is revolving around this. Right? The planet is revolving. The one of the planet is here. For this, I take the distance from the sun is, this is r. Okay. Time period for this planet is t. If I select another planet where this planet is here, let me say our planet is here. So from the sun to this planet, the distance is r2. The time period for this planet is t. For example, one more planet if I select, which is also revolving around this, where let me say here this is the one planet, the third planet. For this time period is t3. From here to here distance is r2. So what do you observe from this? I have taken in this figure 3 planets. The first planet from the sun, where it is revolving around the sun, where the distance I have taken it as r1, the time period of this planet is t. If I select the second planet here, the distance from sun to this is r2, time period is t2. And the third planet is shown like this. Is it clear? So what do you observe from this? So different planets are having different radius. By observing this, you are able to say different planets are having different radius. So remember, what do you mean by time period? The time taken to complete one complete revolution of the planet around the sun. The time taken to complete one complete revolution, I said. So what do you mean by this? They just observe. Here, Kepler has observed one of the planets, and he has observed a planet the one position, and from there he observed a planet. What time does it takes to complete one complete the revolution, and again it comes to the same initial point. So that is what he has observed. So we say, for example, this is our first planet is here. He has seen that planet, and here he observes the planet is revolving around the sun, and finally he sees the same planet comes to the same position after some time period. So that is he has noted down as time period. Is it clear? So the time taken to complete one complete revolution is called as the one time period. Okay. According to his explanation, you can also learn this law explains you can calculate for any of the planets the time period as well as the distance from it. Okay. So according to him, if I have explained, he has taken two planets. Let me say for the first planet this is T1. For the second planet this is T2. According to him, this T1 is proportional to, that is nothing but R1. And here also T2 is proportional to R2. According to him, where if we just observe, he has written the expression where according to him this is T square and this is also T square. This will be Q and this is Q. According to him, he has proved where T1 square by T2 square is proportional to R1 Q by R2 Q. Where you can observe the square of the time period of the planet is roughly proportional to the cube of the semi-major axis. Okay, so from this what do you observe? For any of the calculation, you can use this formula where if you know one of the time period of the planet and for that time period you have respective radius. So if you know the time period of one of the planet and also radius, and if you know the second planet where the time period, you are ready to calculate the radius of that orbit where by using this relation. Okay, so this is what you can say, this Kepler's theorem. This I have explained according to the statement, but I will also derive how you get this. How did you get this expression? I will show you the mathematical expression, but as per the one PU board where you expect state the law of period. State the law of period then ask. According to that you state and you write the expression. Okay. But now I will show the mathematical expression how you get this. How did you get this? This is not an assumption, but remember you will prove this, and that expression will also helpful for the next coming day's class where I explain the universal law of gravitation. So let me tell you how to derive this expression and how you get this concept. Is it clear? So please observe, I have given the statement and I have given this according to the one statement. So as per the PU board question, you explain, state the law of period, mention the expression or solve the problem by using this, you are ready to do. Now I am going for derivation. That derivation will be helpful for you to also explain the Newton's law of gravitation, because in my earlier first lecture I said this Kepler has explained the one laws. The same laws were also compiled by the Newton to explain the one famous law called as universal law of gravitation. Okay, so now let me prove that. Okay. Now I will just write here the third law, first Kepler's third law. Where this is law of period, also called as harmonic law, and I write this expression where square of the time period is proportional to cube of the semi-major axis. Okay, this is what we have, and I said these two laws were explained early in 1609. This was explained in the year 1680. Okay, now let me explain how to explain this, I'll just tell you the one concept according to Kepler's theorem. I'll just draw the elliptical orbit in which Sun is at one of the foci. Let me say our planet is here. From Sun to the planet we have the one distance r. Have taken distance r. You might be confused. Madam, you have written a. Let me explain you what it is clearly. But this one, where it is radius of the one orbit. Okay. Now let me tell you. Here we have Sun and we have the planet. And remember, our planet is revolving around the Sun in an elliptical orbit, due to which always there exhibit an attraction between them. This I explain in the next class regarding the Newton's law of gravitation. But before going to that, I'll just keep it in. There arises a force of attraction between these two, Sun and planet, due to which there arises a force of attraction between them. Hence, you can say, remember, this planet is far away from here, Sun is at this position. Even there arises a force. You will also have some doubts. What do you mean by force? Earlier in school days, you know, most probably you might be knowing, force means push or pull of an object. So when you want to push an object, you have to apply some force. When you want to pull an object, you apply some force. But remember, here it is far away from the Sun to the planet, but even then they exhibit a force. You feel that it is not have any contact between them. It is too far. Even then there arises a force of attraction between them. So what do you observe? So in the coming days you will also learn all the things where this push or pull always explains whenever the object is in contact. Whenever there arises a contact, you can explain the one force is there. Because if I want to push this object, so I have to put in force on this. So there arises a contact between the object and my hand, and due to which there will be arising a contact force. But remember, here there is no contact between them. It is too far. Even then there arises the force, and that is nothing but without the contact. So they are not in contact. Without the contact of these objects also, we can explain there is a force of attraction between them. This you can explain only for the planetary motions. So even the planetary motions explains the force arises without the force arises without contact. Without contact, the force arises. Okay, so please observe. In the next coming days, we learn all the type of concepts where in contact and without contact also there arises a force. But now I explain there arises a force between them. Without the contact, even then there arises an attraction between the two. When does this attraction takes place? Only whenever there arises a mass. If there is a mass between any of the object, then only there arises a force of attraction between them. Without the mass, there will never be any force between them. So due to which you can say when the Sun is having mass, planet is also having mass, due to which there arises a force of attraction between them. Because you should remember, due to the mass, there arises a force of attraction between them. Without the mass, it will never arise. Okay? So now, just now you observe there arises a force of attraction. Due to which, according to Newton, he has explained universal law of gravitation. Just you observe this today. In the next lecture, I will explain detailed study about universal law of gravitation. So according to Newton, where he has explained the one force of attraction between Sun and the planet. What does he explains? According to him, force is directly proportional to product of masses and inversely proportional to square of the distance between them. This you might be learned in your school days. At the most you might have heard, that is the one universal law of gravitation. According to Newton, there arises a force of attraction between two bodies which are having masses and they are separated by some distance. Maybe you have heard in school days, these two masses are there and these two are separated by some distance, or due to which you are ready to say where F is proportional to product of their masses and inversely proportional to square of the distance between them. But now, if I remove the proportionality, you come across the one constant. When you remove this proportionality, a constant arises. It is called proportionality constant, which is represented by small, that is capital G into M1 M2 by R2. What is this capital G? This capital G is called gravitational constant. This also I will explain in the next class. Gravitational constant, what is it and what will be the value and what are the explanations we can come across. At present, you just remember this is according to Newton's law of gravitation. So I said these two are having masses that are separated by some distance, due to which there arises a force of attraction between them. Since this planet is revolving around the sun in an elliptical orbit according to Kepler. Okay, so due to which I can explain the one centripetal force. But remember, as and when for the calculation purpose, we always take into account the circular orbit, and due to which whenever the objects are revolving around the circular orbit, at present you can remember the planet is revolving around the sun in circular orbit, it is always seeking to the sun, due to which it exhibits centripetal force. Might be in your school days you have heard the word centripetal word. The force which is seeking towards the center, is called centripetal force. So now I take an assumption here. According to the assumption, don't worry, I will explain even the one according to Kepler. But at present, I take an assumption now and I prove this. What is that assumption? According to me, I select circular orbit. Circular orbit. When I say circular orbit, then you can observe all the planets are revolving around the sun, then circular orbit, where I can say this is at the sun and our planet is revolving here around this, right? So due to which the distance from them is here, let me say our planet is here, due to which I can say circular orbit. So this planet is seeking towards the center and there is a force of attraction between them. So we can say here, this is having centripetal force. You already know where centripetal force is represented by Fc, where it is m v square by r. You will be heard in your school days the one mathematical expression for centripetal force, because we know the one object is having some mass and always there is separation between them is r, and since it is having a one circular orbit is revolving around the possesses a velocity, due to which you can say they exhibit centripetal force. Right? So, I have taken to derive this assumption as centripetal orbit. Now, let me say our planet is moving in a circular orbit, due to which it exhibits centripetal force. And you know, the planet is revolving around the sun in a particular orbit, stable orbit, due to which I can take the condition whenever the planet is particular orbit, it is the one planet is revolving in a particular orbit, nothing but we call it as it is moving in a stable orbit, due to which I can take the condition where it is where F is equal to Fc. This is gravitational force. For a reference, alright, this is gravitational force, this is centripetal force. When does it occur? Only when the planet is moving in a stable orbit. This condition satisfies. Since it is moving in a particular orbit, nothing but stable orbit, it possesses where F is equal to Fc. Now, using this condition, now we already know what is F and we already know what is Fc. Let me put in this where F is nothing but, that is G. For your convenience, let me tell you the one mass of the sun. Mass of the sun is represented by capital M. Let me take small m is represented by mass of planet. Okay, and the distance is r, right? So now I have taken these two. According to this, I rewrite this expression. According to these two conditions. What I write? Where f is equal to g, capital M, and also small m by r square. Right? Now you already know here, this is the one centripetal force. This mass of the planet, the one planet is revolving around the sun, due to which this is said to be mass of the planet. Therefore, I rewrite here, this is m v square by r. And you know this capital M is mass of the sun, small m is mass of the planet. Here this is mass of the planet, v is the velocity of the one planet which is revolving around the sun, r is the distance between the planet and the sun, and therefore by equating these two, I can cancel these two and one r will be cancelled. Therefore, finally we get g capital M by r, that is equal to v square. You got this expression now, right? What is this v? V is said to be the velocity of the one planet which is revolving around the sun. That is, v is the one velocity, right? But you know in your school days is the one velocity concept. What is velocity? Where velocity is equal to displacement by time. Displacement by time. Here I have taken the planet is revolving around the sun, right? Displacement. I said this, he is completing one complete revolution. It is moving in a circular orbit. I said this is moving in a circular orbit. Due to which, what is the distance traveled by the planet means, where I say this is none other than circumference of the orbit. Circumference of the orbit. Velocity can be written as circumference of the orbit divided by this small t taken as time period. So please remember, here velocity definition as you know from school days, displacement by time taken. But here according to the one condition, velocity can be taken here as the one distance will be represented by circumference of the orbit divided by time period. Okay, so now using these two, where circumference, this distance is r, and since it is completing one complete circle, therefore that is represented by 2 pi r. What is this one? Time period is 15. Right? But we know the expression for v now. Let me substitute here. According to this, where gm by r is equal to, it is 2 pi r by t whole square. 2 pi r by t whole square. Because we have here v square, right? Now depending on this, I can write here gm by r is equal to 4 pi, because 2 2s are 4, pi square r square by t. That is square it is there, so I write t square. Right? So 2 2s are 4, pi square r square by t square. Now I rewrite this formula now. When I rewrite this formula, you can observe what is this. If I rewrite for this t square, this is equal to, this t will come this side, therefore this can be written as 4 pi square r square divided by this r will go to this side, this is r cube, it will become r cube, and this will be gm. Right? Now you can observe here this expression, this final expression you can observe. I'll write here because we are unable to see this. I'll just write here itself. This can be written here, where it is t square is equal to 4 pi r cube divided by gm. Right? Now, what do you observe from this? Completely this 4 pi by gm is taken as constant. Therefore, T square is proportional to R cube. What is this constant? I represent this by T square is equal to K R cube. What is this K called as? It is 4 pi square by G. This is a proportionality constant. Right? 4 is a number, pi you can take it as 3.14, or you can also take it as 22/7. This G is a universal gravitational constant that I say in the next class also, but now for this we take the value 6.67 × 10⁻11 mass of the one sun. Using all this, you can also get the value for this case where K is equal to 10⁻⁻12 and this is second square m to the power of -3. This is the value we have for K. After substituting all the values, finally we get this. This is square s square m to the power of -3. How you get this? I will show you this. By substituting the one units, you can also get it all these things. But this is the one constant we have. This remains always constant. Now I have proved where T square is proportional to R cube. But here I have written A cube. This R cube is explained due to what? Due to circular orbit. Since I have taken circular orbit, I have taken the distances R, and due to which I have proved this. But you know, according to Kepler, he uses elliptical orbit. Where in elliptical orbit, you cannot say radius is equal to semi-major axis. Where this circle is one of the special case of ellipse, due to which these two foci points will merge together and they form the one radius, and that 2 points, whenever they merge together, this radius is equal to semi-major axis, I said earlier class. Right? Due to which now using the one according to Kepler's condition, I prove according to Kepler, where I say now replacing this R by A, where I write T square is proportional to A cube because he has used elliptical orbit. But remember, so always for calculation purpose, we take the one circular orbit. We prove the conditions. Finally, we extend the explanation to the remaining concept, right? Now, I have taken circular orbit, I have proved, and finally have shown for elliptical orbit according to Kepler. For elliptical orbit, T square is proportional to A cube. And you already know where K is equal to this. 10⁻⁻12 s square m to the power of -3. Okay. Now just observe, this I have explained according to Kepler's theorem. This is the one condition we also can extend for Newton's universal law of gravitation. There I can explain this expression. So please observe this condition what I have proved here. Okay. You will never get this derivation in the exam, but these concepts are required for your competitive exams. Whenever you write objective type questions, at that time you need all these concepts. When you are objective type questions, you expect what are the things to be observed here. Concept based questions, at that time you need all these things. Is it clear? So please observe. Just now I explained law of Perry. Right? So I have explained according to simple statement it is. But the one derivation we do like this. Okay. So just now we have completed all the 3 laws. You will be observed. What is the reason to learn all the 3 laws? Why is it required? Please remember, these Kepler's 3 laws of planetary motions are very useful in our day-to-day life. Where it is, the first you have explained the planets. These planets are revolving around the sun, due to which you have explained these 3 Kepler's laws in an elliptical orbit. But remember, this is explained for solar system. The same concept can be extended for the planets which are revolving around the moon, and at the same time that can also be explained for any satellites which are revolving around any planet. At that time you need this Kepler's law. So that is the first condition. You can observe this is not only learned for planet and the sun. The same three laws, whatever we have learned now, this is extended for our explanations for the next coming days. Whenever the satellites are revolving around this, we require this Kepler's laws. Right? Second point, this also explains which obeys the inverse law of gravitation. These Kepler's laws obeys inverse law of gravitation. The third point, it explains empirical laws. Now, what do you mean by empirical laws? What we will not only learn the theory, we will do the observations, each and everything. So, let me write one by one those 3 points. What are those? The first one, uses of these Kepler's laws. What is the first one? This Kepler's law are explained for solar system. Again, it has been extended to the today's satellites which are revolving around the sun or around any planet. You can explain this. That is the Kepler's laws. Earlier it was explained for solar system. The second, what is that point means? This always obeys the inverse square law. It obeys inverse square. This law you learn in the next class, the one universal law of gravitation, where we explain this distance is inversely proportional to square of the force is inversely proportional to square of the distance. That we will explain in the next class. So that it also explains inverse square law. So this Kepler's law is also useful for Newton's law of gravitation. The third point, it explains the one empirical laws. What do you mean by empirical laws? Not only it explains theory. Remember, observations are real. Whatever the calculations, whatever these things you explain, the observations were explained, not theory. Observations are explained, but not theory. Right? So these are the 3 important concepts you come across using the Kepler's laws of planetary motion. Okay? So today's the one, lecture 3, where I have started Kepler's third law, law of period, and also it is taken as the third law, also called as ordinary. And we have proved this derivation, and finally we extended this concept for the semi-major axis, what the time is proportional to cube of the semi-major axis, and finally have proved this also condition. At the same time, I have explained these 3, which is very useful in this Kepler's laws. How it is useful means, in the coming days we learn satellites, also we learn square law, and from there we observe how this Kepler's law is useful in every also this steps in the physics. Okay, many concepts in physics were explained using Kepler's laws. Okay, let me stop this 3 laws. But now I'll just recall one by one from the Kepler's first law, where in the Kepler's first law we have said law of orbit that explains nothing but it explains the shape of the orbit. Today the shape, the first law mainly explains the shape of the orbit, where you know planets revolve around the sun in elliptical orbit. Right? So there I have explained also the concept using 2 foci, and we have proved when R1 plus R2 always remains constant. This I have shown. Again in this I have explained the one Kepler's laws were explained with, compared with Copernicus model, how it is explained for the elliptical orbit and how circular orbit was felt. Right? Now Kepler's second law, where in the previous class we have learned law of areas, and this law of areas mainly explains the concept where it is. I have explained few neat points in the previous class, where I have shown the first concept where angular momentum is conserved. This I have explained. Angular momentum is conserved. Right? This point I have explained. Again, where I have shown the second point, the central force. That point explains central force. Because you know, the imaginary that draws from the sun to the planet sweeps some equal distances in equal intervals of time, due to which it explains law of areas. So we will also learn the one central force, and also have shown the third point where the one aerial velocity dA by dt always remains constant, and this constant for any central force, I said, any central force, right? At the same time, have given this expression. What is that constant means? Where angular momentum is conserved, where have proved dA by dt is equal to L by 2m. Even I can write this expression where L is equal to 2m into dA by dt. This I can also show like this by just cross multiplying. This we have learned in the previous class. Also have explained one more point there. What is it? Where have shown selecting 2 points on the orbit have proved where angular momentum is conserved, where have proved where v is proportional to 1 by half. So if I selected 2 points in an elliptical orbit, one is perihelion, one is aphelion. So this is the one perihelion, and this is distance from here to here, it is the one aphelion, where I have shown this is RT, this is RA, and therefore for this velocity is Vp, and for this velocity is Va. I can prove that where Vp and Va is equal to, that is RA by RP. What do you observe here? Where Vp is greater than Va. Vp is greater than Va. Similarly, this Ra is greater than, I can say, with respect to this Rp is less than R. This is what you can observe, where for this we can just draw one graph. What is it? That is dA by dt versus distance. If I just draw, angular velocity remains constant. Where I said the one aerial velocity remains constant. This is what the figure we can show, in which angular momentum remains conserved. This is how we can prove this. Okay, so all these points we have completed, and this completes the one Kepler's 3 laws of planetary motion. Okay, let me stop today. In the next class, I go for the Newton's universal law of gravitation. Thank you very much.